Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 122 of the Peak of Serenity podcast. I am, as always, one of your hosts, Emallson, and joining me, we have my co-host, Anomoly.
Hello.
And as you might have noticed, season 4 released this week, and it was kind of a mess.
To be fair, when you said that, I was like, you may have noticed we're actually on time for once, on the right day.
Oh
But
yeah,
yes,
that's
season
true
four did.
too.
Season
If
four did come out this week.
if you're listening to the audio version, you probably won't notice much of a difference in time because this is still going to come out like Monday afternoon on the iTunes and Google Play and all of that. But if you're watching the stream, imagine that being on time.
It's a new thing for us. We're slowly learning.
Yeah, real life did not intervene this weekend.
Nice.
But yeah, season 4 released this week, and there's a lot to talk about there.
What a roller coaster.
What a ride it has been. Like, to give you a little bit of a taste, we're gonna go through some new stuff before we get into season 4 stuff, but to give you a little bit of a taste, my team's plan for Castle Nathria was to watch streams and stuff on Tuesday and figure out like what's the tuning, what kind of stuff do we need to actually prep. Like, we had all our weak auras ready to go because that's pretty much universal. No matter what the tuning is, you want those. But the rest of the stuff we've been putting off because we raid on Friday, and we could not actually use the stuff from Tuesday to make any determination of what we needed to do for Friday.
Yeah.
It was a mess.
Yeah.
So yeah. But before we get into that, what's the other non-season 4 news from this week? And
Yeah, so we got a couple of new things. So first up is some sad news, I guess you could say. Is the secret, which I guess if not so secret, World of Warcraft mobile MMO RPG was canceled. So a couple of scoops came out from Bloomberg and Jason Schreier just about the MMO that was going to come out on mobile being canceled. We heard a little bit about this back when right before Blizzard was also announced their like version of World of Warcraft Clash of Clans style game, which is still coming out. And there was news of like 2 projects under development from a mobile perspective. This was the second one. Um, and yeah, so they came out that they have canceled this MMO project that Blizzard and NetEase were working on. You remember NetEase was also the partner that worked with them on Diablo Immortal, which gotten rave reviews. Actually, I heard a stat. I think Diablo Immortal made $100 million for Blizzard last quarter, which is
a lot.
actually a ridiculous amount of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't fault Blizzard for getting into the mobile game space, but not for me. Anyway, that aside, news did come out, and they've since now confirmed, I believe, that the World of Warcraft mobile MMO they were working on is canceled.
Yeah.
And it's sorry.
The reason that is given in these scoops is disagreements over financial terms. I've seen a bunch of people like read that as disagreement over monetization, which is not what that means.
They're not the same thing, yeah.
It could mean a little bit of that, like if they have disagreements over how they wanted to monetize it, leading to disagreements over, the revenue share and things like that. Revenue sharing and who's investing how much and like all that stuff is what typically is meant by financial terms, not like monetization strategy. So this is very unlikely to be due to a disagreement over like NetEase wanting to do Diablo Immortal style monetization and Blizzard wanting to do more Overwatch style monetization or World of Warcraft style monetization. That's probably not the case. It's probably just that they disagreed over the boring business stuff.
Yeah. And it's also interesting too that like, I mean, the reason it's canceled sort of doesn't have to do with this, but I'm always fascinated by like what Blizzard potentially does next in the MMO space, right? So like they have like the longest running, I guess, MMO. I guess EverQuest
Technically,
is still
EverQuest
running,
is still
but
kicking.
yeah.
So is Anarchy Online, which technically released like 2 years before World of Warcraft, but
Before it,
virtually nobody plays either of those. So
yes. In terms of like a game with a, we'll say, substantial audience, right? Like WoW being that game, like longest running one. I've always wondered when like the WoW 2 talk comes up about what Blizzard actually does. Um, and I'm almost of the mind now, like seeing this get canceled and like over financial terms, but I'm also was a little bit wary of them releasing a, not even on a mobile, just another Warcraft MMO.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they have to do an MMO in like a different IP, right? Like whether they take over like, I don't know, Diablo wouldn't really work, but like maybe like StarCraft MMO, which was hinted at a while ago, or you know,
Yeah.
a like Overwatch MMO. But we probably never get a WoW 2. Like we probably just get
The closest
incremental WoW stuff, you know?
the closest thing I think we're going to get to a WoW 2 is WoW Classic.
Yeah.
Um, because we see them revisiting a bunch of design decisions that they made, like with WoW Classic not getting the random dungeon finder.
And Wrath,
Pretty
yeah.
major decisions like that they're revisiting. Or also, I am curious if they will go like alternate timeline with WoW Classic, because we are reaching the end of like the honeymoon period for World of Warcraft in WoW Classic with Wrath of the Lich King coming out in September. We're gonna have a year, maybe 2 years of Wrath of the Lich King, and then what?
Hmm.
Are they gonna go to Cataclysm? Are they gonna skip
Which,
Cataclysm and go straight to Mop? Are they gonna do
yeah.
something completely different and unexpected? Maybe like I would almost be less shocked if they actually skipped all of that and went straight to Legion, because that's probably like the next most popular expansion after Wrath. Like
Yeah.
if they're gonna
Yeah. I mean,
do more after Wrath, I would be like, maybe they go to Cataclysm and they're like, listen, here's the things that we did wrong in Cataclysm that we're gonna fix.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, maybe. I think that, yeah. That's actually a good point. Cause I mean, Cataclysm, I think, is largely panned as like one of the worst, if not the worst expansion, just in terms of like systems and the I think the biggest problem with Cataclysm was almost half the work they put in wasn't into max level stuff. It was like to revamping the old world, right? Like they revamped, I think people forget, like they revamped the entire world in
Yeah,
Cataclysm and then also put together like max level content, which was, I mean, all over the world. Like it was sort of
yeah,
very disjointed as an expansion. So,
yeah. I mean,
um,
I
yeah, I
like
don't
a
know.
lot of the low level stuff in Cataclysm once,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of thing where
Yeah.
it's like once it doesn't really have the same kind of replay value as going through um the old classic songs, and some of that's tuning. Like some of that is tuning, where just like the
Yeah.
only reason that the new low level content was interesting was the new quests, because it was all super easy, like super easy.
Yep.
um and that Cataclysm was really like the one of the major steps down the path of making leveling content significantly easier. um
Hmm.
and that made it less interesting, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what they do. I think that, yeah, I think you're right. Like, this is the inflection point of like either they're just going to continue to release the same expansions, very similar to how they were in the same order, and it's sort of a systematic or like very formulaic piece, or they sort of break at this point. Because they tried some stuff with Season of the Mastery and like original classic, which I don't, which was popular with the people who like that, but unpopular, I think, across like a broader player
It
base.
actually wasn't super popular with the people that were
Oh,
super
really?
into classic, because it actually, like, okay, so world buffs were actually very popular in classic. Not the whole like you get your
Yeah.
world buffs and you log out all week. That was not popular.
Yeah.
But once they introduced the item to let you like store your world buffs and just keep them around, they're actually
Hmm.
pretty popular. There's a lot of actual gameplay that goes into getting them, where you have to like go to contested zones and fight over them and all that stuff. And like some of that doesn't apply to a PvE server, but if you're on a PvP server, fighting over dire maul buffs or whatever
Yeah.
is a thing. Um, and then also world buffs are really powerful, so they hit classic Season of Mastery with a double whammy of buffing the raid bosses and also removing very powerful buffs that people were using to trivialize the content.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
I don't think that Season of Mastery was actually that popular with the people that were playing classic.
All right. Fair enough then. So I mean, they missed the mark then with that. And yeah, I mean, we'll see, I guess, after Wrath. But yeah, the whole idea of what I think you're, I mean, maybe you're right. Is that like WoW 2 is really just them revisiting old stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're even doing some like, I mean, they're bringing back talent trees, right? So they're making some crazy decisions on retail anyway. So
Yeah,
um,
I mean,
yeah, it's interesting.
Dragonflight. This is going to be a very interesting end of year for World of Warcraft. We're getting Wrath
Okay.
Classic, um, and we're getting Dragonflight sometime this fall.
Yeah, be packed.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. But yeah, so I guess the actual news story was just about them canceling the MMORPG. But yeah, I thought I'd bring up a little bit of an aside conversation around like, yeah, what WoW 2 potentially looks like. But yeah, I don't know. If I were them, I'd skip Cataclysm for sure. But I don't know if I'd go right to Legion. I think I'd stop at MOP,
Yeah.
skip WAD, or change the way WAD mission tables work and garrisons work
Yeah.
specifically,
Well, the other
and then
thing
get into
is,
Legion.
like, WAD as like a 6 to 8 month, maybe year long expansion would actually not have been that bad because, like, you had some very
Oh
solid
no.
raid tiers. The issue is just Hellfire Citadel was like 2 years long,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, actually, to be fair, I think WAD raid tier wise, like very good.
And that's one
Like
thing, like,
I would put, yeah, I would put WAD above even like this expansion's like raid. Like what WAD is, no, MOP was
Throne of Thunder and
Throne of
Siege of
Thunder.
Lordaeron.
Okay, yeah, okay, so those are top tier, and then WAD was Hellfire Citadel, which is really good, and then what were the ones before that? Oh, it's the bad one. The
High
opening
Mall.
raid in WAD was not good.
Yeah.
High Mall was not good, but anyway, sorry, it's decent though.
Yeah, and like people really actually really liked the classes in WAD and MOP, so maybe they like
Yeah.
the other thing they could do is they keep the release cadence for classic is actually way faster than for retail. Um, like they've
Right.
gone through like 3 expansions in 3 to 4 years. It's quite fast. Um,
Yeah.
as opposed to retail going through like one expansion every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah, they
could
definitely need
like
to
do
slow that down.
well, they could do like a cataclysm and be like, hey, we're gonna do cataclysm, and the release cadence is just gonna be pretty fast. You all can do the new raid tiers, you can do the new zones like once or twice, and then you can move on to Miss Pandaria, and you can like get your nostalgia hit, but you don't have to like, you know, do
Farm it out.
a year of Dragon Soul, or things like, hey, we're not reintroducing
God.
LFR. Like imagine that. Imagine Dragon Soul without LFR.
That'd be a crazy choice. But it would make sense, I think. Not that it would make sense, but it would be like like a natural choice for like something that is, because I mean like I feel like classic's much more like close knit community driven versus like
Yeah,
anything else, like versus like retail at this point.
yeah,
So maybe they could do some stuff like that. I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll see. We'll see what they do after Wrath. But yeah, Wrath this fall. I don't know if I'm going to be playing it. I mean, I loved those raids. Like that entire Wrath is just a like fan service expansion almost. Like
yeah,
all building up to the Lich King, like the big bad, like since like War 3, right? Like everybody knows
yeah.
the Arth. Like if you've played any sort of Warcraft at all, right? Like you know that
Yeah,
story.
I mean,
So
you also
yeah.
Arthas, the Lich King, is just cool, just like on his own merits. You don't
Yeah.
need to know the story to like look at a poster with Arthas on it and go, "Whoa, that's cool." Like
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
really not got a lot of. It doesn't need the backing, and then the backing is like icing on the cake that elevates it.
Yeah.
Um,
That's true. Almost he's like a cool villain that is just cool, and you don't need to realize he's like a 12 forehead person with big brain plans that
yeah,
had everything had the entire universe sort of molded to his will over the past 15 years, and then finally he hatches his master plan, and all we have to do is jump in holes to defeat him. You know what I mean? Or run around the corner. He's
yep,
not something like that. You know,
yep.
dumbass jailer. Um, I guess in other news too, I guess we can move on from that if you're good. Um, in other news, we did get a new build for Dragonfight Alpha. This brought in warrior talent trees. I heard there's supposed to be 2 talent trees this week. One got cut late. Oh, I was gonna give everybody the finger. One got cut late. So we only get warrior. Um, and the other one was, of course, going to be monk, but we'll see that next week, as I've been predicting this entire time.
Yes,
Um,
you are
but
saved
yeah, we
by
got
them
warrior.
cutting it.
Well, I mean, it just wasn't ready. It needed a little bit longer to bake.
They needed
But
time to
no,
get chi explosion in.
oh, a chi explosion and healing spheres,
Yeah.
both core abilities to the class. But no, we got warriors. I haven't really taken a look at the warrior tree at all. I mean, to be fair, I don't play DPS where I really only look at like the prot side of the house, but I haven't heard much in terms of feedback from warriors. So
Uh,
I don't know if you've heard anything.
I have. The Prot Warrior
Okay.
tree is insane. Absolutely fucking
Like,
bonkers.
like
There's
good? Like it's saying good?
like overpowered. Like it's
Oh. Nice.
they have a lot of new abilities. They've got a number of abilities that address key weaknesses like warrior being extremely vulnerable to magic damage, which I think is good because there's a point at which you could be too vulnerable to something where you get pushed out of the meta due to it existing
Mhm.
in raid or in dungeons. Like Prot Warrior being extremely vulnerable to magic damage has been a problem multiple raid tiers where just like, Queen Ajara, her magic hit, the uh damage from that was effectively
Mhm.
unmitigatable by them outside of like trying to spell reflect it, but it could be spell queued and so your spell reflect was janky and like all kinds of lots of just awful stuff there. So that
Gotcha.
kind of thing I think is good. I think people in general are really like you can look at people's reactions to talent trees and there's a lot of people that their reaction is primarily based on power level and the prot warrior tree is like way up there in power level. There's a ton of cool new toys, like tons and tons of cool new toys, which I think is awesome. Especially since prot warrior has not really changed at all besides the gutting of anger management since legion.
Okay.
So there's that, but uh it's really hard for me. Like I haven't logged on to alpha to play with it is season 4. Um
Yeah.
but I'm a little bit cautious of the feedback so far because so much of it is just like they got some really insane toys. And when you sit down and you look at the structure of the tree, you have to ask yourself, is this going to be something where you just pick all of the cool new toys? Or are you going to have to
Yeah.
actually decide? Because if you can just pick everything that you want, it's not really a talent tree. It's just like, you know, uh the same kind of leveling process that we have now where you eventually get everything.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
I have not spent a lot of time with it. I like skimmed it, saw some of the insanity that is on that tree, and yeah, yeah.
Nice. 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 Awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, it's good that they're getting some like insane stuff. But yeah, hopefully we'll see more talent trees this week. What's this? What's left? It's Warlock, Demon Hunter, and Monk, right? Are the only three?
And Holy Paladin.
Oh, and Holy Paladin. Sorry, yeah. So Holy
Yeah.
Monk, Warlock, and DK.
Let me double
Or
check
sorry, DH.
because if we go to the handy dandy Wowhead talent calculator,
I
uh,
think that's it.
that should tell us what is actually missing. Here, talent
Strike killed
calculator.
Holy Paladin.
Right, killed Holy
I don't
Paladin.
think.
Yep.
Thank you,
Warlock, Demon Hunter, Monk.
Bruce.
Warlock, Demon
Yeah.
Hunter, Monk, and of course Holy Paladin. And then there's some in there that probably still need another pass, like Death Knights. Although I
Priests.
think a lot of them are gonna get second and third passes. Like we're still
Yeah.
um doing this kind of focused alpha testing stage. Um so we will see. I am going to try and get on and do the new zone because the other thing from this alpha patch is there's a new zone. Um,
Yep.
all of my time this week has gone into season 4 stuff, so I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna try and hop on and do it.
I will. Yeah. I was gonna do. I guess the other thing that came out this week is they released the uh
Dragonriding talent.
Actually, one more yeah,
Okay.
one more thing on talent tree, sorry. Is I heard through the grapevine, and this we can take this with a grain of salt, but the DHs were having a little bit the folks working on have a little bit trouble of like filling out the tree, basically giving you enough nodes to build like a full tree
Yeah.
for Demon Hunter. And it got me thinking, particularly about Mistweaver Monk. I'm wondering if they're also having a similar issue because of the large rework that we got in Legion. So we've only got essentially 2 full expansions of
Right.
abilities, right? Or just like a concept for the class
Yeah.
after the rework. And I'm wondering, and Demon Hunters similarly have only been around for 2 expansions. So I'm wondering if that's a similar issue that they're having, at least on the Mistweaver side. I feel like Brewmaster and Windwalker have been fairly consistent since they started in terms of like there's been like some minor adjustments maybe. Um,
Brewmaster also got a
but
very significant rework in Legion.
oh, okay.
Um,
Sorry.
they're
I don't know.
actually
I just heal.
closer now to what they originally were than they were in Legion, which is kind of funny.
Gotcha.
Basically, like pre Legion, stagger was fairly minor. Like it was there, but it was not the powerhouse that it is now. And
Yeah.
uh, you had guard, which is what we now have as Celestial Brew,
Hell yeah. Okay.
effectively. So they kind of took elements of what used to be Brewmaster and brought it back for Shadowlands, and that actually made Brewmaster a lot better to play. Um,
Gotcha.
so we will see, because
Okay.
Brewmaster
Fair enough.
also is in that boat of like having really 2 expansions of stuff to pull from, plus some pre-Legion stuff that maybe doesn't fit anymore. Like Chi was a thing for Brewmaster before
Yeah.
Legion. Example.
It was for Mistweaver too.
Yeah,
Maybe they should bring it back for the entire monk class.
maybe.
Blizzrad. Um, but yeah, no, sorry. I just thought about so I mean, like, I guess we'll see this week what we get. I mean, it almost I think they've data mined a bunch of Warlock stuff already. So you're almost think it's gonna be Warlock. Because I think that the play was actually gonna be Warlock Warrior this week. But we'll see what comes up next week in
Yeah,
terms of classes to release. But sorry, I know the other thing that they've released this week on Alpha is they added Dragon Riding talents, and a little bit more information on the system too, which sounds really cool. So like the way it works is you have a talent tree for your Dragon Riding. I think the idea is like you don't. There's no real choice here. It's just like you just collect oh, there's a couple of choice nodes, I guess 2 or 3.
yeah,
But like the idea is you eventually get everything in the tree, right? Like there's not a branching node path like talent trees like for
yeah.
classes or specs, right? It's pretty linear. But the cool part about this is the way that you get these talent points is by like collecting things in the world. There's like emblems scattered. Well, there's 10 emblems in each zone, 4 zones. So there's 40 emblems out there to collect. And basically each one of these gives you a talent point that you can then use in the tree. Um, and so it's actually a pretty cool system, I'd say, in terms of like how you eventually like build up this tree and like get everything you need.
Right.
Um, and the interesting part is that the talent points are tied to achievement. So every time you collect one of these things, you get an achievement. And the achievement is account wide. So
Right.
technically, you only have to collect these things once per character, which is
Or once per
another
account.
nice thing for alts, or once per account. I'm sorry, once per account, which is a nice, I'd say, like quality of life. Sorry, I was thinking of the word, but quality of life implementation for this talent tree. So it just means like anytime you jump on an alt, your dragon riding will generally be, at the same level as your main, right? That you don't have to
Yeah,
go back through and tediously collect all these things. It sounds like the emblems are sort of like scattered or hidden almost around. Maybe not hidden is the wrong word, but they're
yeah,
like in difficult to reach places around the world, right?
yeah.
Um,
Some of them are hidden.
so
I've seen some crazy screenshots of people like, "Hey, I found one," and it's like the top of a mountain, looking out over the entire continent.
fair
So
enough.
there's most of them I don't think are that hard, because I ran across some in like when I was playing through the first zone. Like I ran across some just running around doing the dragon riding races, doing some exploration. There were some out there. Couldn't use them
Mhm.
for anything, but there were a couple out there. And I was not going and looking for them, right? So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, I do really like that this is account wide. That is something that they
yeah,
said they were like hearing feedback that like people didn't want to have to re-unlock this over and over again. And so making these talent points come from achievements that you get from finding the glyphs or whatever you call them out in the world is really nice. And going to mean that like if you switch mains or you just want to play multiple characters, you can keep your dragon riding and still do all the things that you're used to on your main.
yeah, yeah. Which is I think is it's just like it doesn't affect much even from your alts, right? Because I'm assuming like you'll still like want to pick which type of dragon you want to ride. I wonder if
Yeah,
the cosmetics end up being account wide too, or if that's something that you like would have to collect across the
that's a
board.
great question, because
But
like mounts are all cosmetic, and those are account wide.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's a great question.
I don't know. But I mean, in any event, cool thing. I mean, it means that you don't do a bunch of tedious stuff on your alt just to better traverse the world.
Yeah.
It also probably has, I wonder, the only thing I wonder, and I haven't tested this, but I wonder if they, well, I guess we can't, but I wonder if they gate any of the, like, what the talents give you based on level. I mean, like, while you can fill out the whole tree, like, you only get access, like, if you're level 60 to like the first 2 rows, and then, like,
I
as you level up,
doubt
more and more
it.
open up, even if you have talent points for it.
I suspect it's more that like you are going to be too low level for later zones to unlock all of this stuff until you actually level up some, right?
That's fair. Yeah. I guess that's one way. Yeah. I basically, in any event, it just makes leveling alts a little bit easier too,
Yeah,
right? Like the idea is
yeah.
like you just have better traversal. Um,
Um,
cool.
eh,
And then I guess speaking. Oh, sorry.
I just want to mention like the talents, like fully unlocking the tree is going to make Dragonriding significantly better than what we were playing with in the first round of alpha testing when I was talking about it last time. We're talking about like
Yeah.
cutting the amount of time it takes to generate a new crystal to 1/3 of what it is baseline and things like that. So while you're flying, you're going to get the crystals to maintain speed and altitude 3 times as fast once you've gotten pretty deep in this tree. So there's actually like real incentive to just max this out. Like go around, do your
Hmm.
exploration like in that couple of weeks what after the expansion is launched but before the raid has released. Go around, collect these, like max out your dragon riding, and then like you can do so much more than you can or could initially on alpha.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it'll be real cool. I think the other thing too that was launched along with these talents was actually the multiplayer races. So I think you can actually do the races with up to 3 other people on
Really?
alpha
I
right now.
missed
I
that.
think that came out. I thought I saw a note. It wasn't in the actual notes. It was actually in, I think a post somewhere. Maybe I'm lying, but I thought they also unlocked the ability to like do multiplayer races this patch too. Um, which would be cool. Yeah. So I didn't put that in the notes for the show, but
Yeah,
um,
that's kind of neat.
I thought I read something about that. Yeah, which I think is what we talked about. It's that sort of like system is like they can extend that even just slightly. It'd be like a cool thing to be like jump on and be like, hey guys, you want to race?
Yeah,
Start up money leagues, take all my friends' money. It'd be great.
nice, nice. Something
But
for me
yeah,
to
so
do
I
while I'm
guess
benched.
except well, as a mystery, yeah, I'll be riding the pine with my other like terrible classes. But speaking of, I guess, leveling, the other thing too is there's been a bunch of XP changes to just leveling from 1 to 60, or I guess 1 to 59. Um, and it's basically lowered by over half.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna pull up this chart that Wowhead has because
yeah,
it's gonna it's
which
really
is
difficult to
interesting where the
express in
reduction
words.
is.
um,
Yeah. So like, oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the chart the way that the chart's supposed to read is it's basically a comparison of the XP requirements today versus what's on alpha. And the idea is it looks like they've reduced it by a fair amount in the early levels. So between like 1 and 10, huge reduction. And then actually from 10 to 30-ish, it's actually an increase in the amount of XP you need. Um, and then all after 30, it literally falls off a cliff. So like 50 and beyond is like, as you can see, like is like almost an 80% reduction in the experience you need to get through 50 to 60, which I think the way that they're doing this actually makes a lot of sense in that if you're starting a new character today, you sort of stay in that learning zone of like 1 to 30, 1 to 40, like longer, or
Yeah,
longer we'll say, like, but not that much longer. And then if you already have like characters you've leveled to max, you've gotten to max level over the past couple expansions, getting to the max level to start the new content's almost a breeze, right?
yeah,
With a 6% reduction in XP. If you have much alts at 50, getting to 60 will take you like an afternoon of
right.
playtime, you
So
know?
you know what is really interesting about this chart? Aside from the level 1 to 10 thing, if you ignore that, what this looks like is they converted the experience required per level from an exponential curve where every level is like, 1.2 times the previous level's amount, 1.4, 1.5 times the previous level's amount of experience, um,
Mhm.
to a more linear one where you just add on a flat amount of experience every time, which would, like, if you're up on your maths, uh would cause an increase in the experience requirement early on, but a dramatic
Hmm.
decrease in the experience required as you get to higher levels. So that's basically what this looks like to me. Is it's gonna the time you spend in each level from 1 to 60 is actually going to be way more consistent. You're gonna It's not going to be like, level 29 to 30 is a breeze, and then level 49 to 50 is like a million years in comparison.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Which is I think a much better experience too, just in terms because like that was always the problem. Like if you level now, and maybe not now, but in the past, right? And you'd like be questing in a zone, get in random dungeon finder, jump in a dungeon, and come out and be like 3 levels higher than you were, than like
Right.
what the zone was around you, and then having to like either continue on like with like green and gray quests, or like now move to a next zone and basically the same process sort of restart itself every
Right.
time. Um,
The scaling chromie time stuff does fix a lot of that, but it's still like, getting into a dungeon at level 15 and coming out at level 19 is quite
a bit
dramatic in
ridiculous, yeah.
comparison to, like, if you get into a dungeon at level 45 and you come out 80% of the way to 46, if that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's a lot more a lot I was going to be like a lot more smoother, but a lot smoother than before. So, good change, I'd say. Yeah, it's crazy the reduction. Like I think in the same Wowhide post they actually show you like the level by level reduction, and like
Yeah.
those end levels are like 75% less experience, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Um in terms of the curve. Um so that's sort of the I think most of the news from this week, unless you had anything else you wanted to throw up there.
No, that's
Um,
it's a lot of what I had to talk about.
cool. Um, all right. Well, I guess we can jump into the main topic, which today was going to be season four. And for those astute listeners, you may have noticed we sort of skipped our typical raid review week at the top of the show, and I guess we
Hmm.
can sort of slot it in here, and then sort of talk about maybe a mishmash of fun things that happened.
I suspect we'll get into some of
That
these
happened.
while we talk through our raid experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess I'll kick it off because since I rated on Tuesday early, or well earlier than you, and got to experience most of these things firsthand. So yeah, so we jumped in the raid on Tuesday. We have done nothing but faded raid this week. We didn't go back to Sepulcher at all um in terms of our clears, right? Spent all our time in faded and actually started with heroic, which is typically what we do with new content. Like we don't ever jump right into mythic the
Yeah.
first week. Even in support, like even we've always done this since I can remember. It's always been heroic first, and then we'd split, either go back to normal if we needed loot or go forward to mythic if it was open. And we started in heroic, and it was heroic. Like I think we one shot pretty much most bosses. Like, and when we wiped, it was basically because we forgot how to do a mechanic and screwed it up, right?
I don't. So we did
Oh,
heroic as well. I don't think we
mhm.
wiped to any boss except for Denathrius, right? I think we wiped a couple times to
Oh, nice,
Denathrius to learning phase 3 stuff.
gotcha. Yeah, we definitely wiped a lot more to maybe not like 4 or 5 times to most bosses after really after Shriekwing. I think we wiped twice to like Huntsman and like
Oh, I was
handful of
wrong.
times. What we were dealing with is the major bug, I think, that opened the season, which was abilities that didn't originate from the player, or were like ones that are like, if you do X damage, Y thing happens. We're not working on Tuesday. And those are things like, from a healing perspective, Ancient Teachings of the Monastery wasn't working. The replication from Bone Dust Brew, so like one of the major things from a damage healing perspective, wasn't working. Outside of the monk class, Ignite wasn't working for mages. Neither was their arcane mastery. Mages were actually screwed
Yeah.
in terms
All
of
basically
abilities.
only Frost worked. So the way
Yeah.
that Arcane plays right now is you stack a bunch of damage amplification stuff up, and then you feed a ton of damage into something that then copies the damage you did, and the copy at the end there that like quadruples your damage that you do during that period wasn't working.
Yeah. which was great because we actually got through like I think 2 or 3 bosses before it happened, right? And there was other weird things like Holy Priest Mastery wasn't working on Sun King, so it was like a
Interesting.
reduced effect. So
Yeah.
yeah, like it was hilarious because we actually got the Sun King Mythic on Tuesday, and we're 6 healing it and like barely making the checks, and then literally we go back there Thursday and like destroyed. Like we could have probably 5 healed it and been perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it was a rough. I mean, we got up to Denathrius on heroic on Tuesday, hit some of the worst lag I've seen on that fight. Like we literally had a pull
Yeah.
where we did the first part, did the second whatever frontal cone thing, got the night hunters from right after that, and the night hunters didn't go off until we got to the next zone after Ravage and had to do the next frontal.
Yeah.
And then they went off and like killed like 3 people because
Yeah.
like people were like, I think they've gone off at this point.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we hit crazy. Like it was worse than what everything from season one like
So,
I've ever seen.
really
So
funny thing about that, on Friday during our raid, like as we were reaching
yeah.
Denathrius, they pushed a hotfix, and the hotfix note was significantly improved latency, server lag, or Sire Denathrius was effectively what it read.
Yeah.
So we were planning to like split up doing the debuff clears so that we wouldn't trigger the insane lag. Um,
Yeah.
and then that hotfix note came out, and we're like, well, we'll just YOLO like everybody stacking this and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it was actually perfectly fine. People had frame lag
Oh,
issues because turns out still having like 25, 26 of these ads out at once is going to destroy your frame rate if you're using some add-ons that are not particularly efficient with large numbers of enemies.
right.
Um, but there was no like we didn't lag out the server. We didn't like have people effectively get disconnected from the game because of all the enemies that were up,
Oh
like some people
wow.
had been having happen. Um,
Yeah.
so we like that was not an issue. It was actually really nice. Um, and then we, killed Denathrius and went out of the instance to switch to Mythic, and 90% of our raid got disconnected from the game and was not able to log back in.
Oh, yeah, I heard there was Friday night, there was, like, yeah, login issues, yeah.
Yep.
Oh god, that
So,
sucks.
um, we were eventually able to get back in, but it happened as we would have been taking our breaks. We do like a 10-minute mid-raid break, right?
Mhm,
And
yeah.
we ended up doing effectively like a 25-minute mid-raid break
Jeez.
because people just couldn't get back in.
Gotcha.
But we did get back in and actually kind of breeze through the first 3 mythic bosses. Like, it's kind of
Yeah.
funny, back in actual season 1, Huntsman and Hungering Destroyer were actually like awful for us for reclears. We were always
Yeah.
wiping on those. I don't really understand why, but we one shot them this week.
Nice. Nice.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, our Mythic clear, we did up to, like I said, Sun King, um, on Tuesday, and what it wasn't Mythic was actually much easier. Once we learned about, like, the bugs and stuff like that, like, it was a little bit easier, to get through it. Yeah, Hungering, we actually had to go back and re-download, what was it? Infinite Raid Tools, because we actually didn't use a weak ore for, like, the miasma soaking, we used
right.
IRT to do it all, so I get a bunch of people get that add-on going, and yeah, it was really fine, and then Wednesday was real rough. I mean, we we spent a ton of time on council, probably
Really.
more than we should have, yeah. Um, and uh, and got it down like probably like it's forever. So we probably had like 45 minutes left in the raid, and so we ended up just going back and clearing Sire on heroic,
Yeah.
and sort of just to get our 10 bosses in for like the quest or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that way we didn't miss it out because we didn't know if we get SLG down quick enough to like, and also what Sire would do. We I think we one shot Sire uh when we got there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I mean, the affixes are weird. Like some of them like our Sun King affix broke,
I
meaning like
heard about that. Oh
the
man.
mob wouldn't get the shield, so like it just died and didn't give us a buff. And like we thought it was like, oh, because mages are spell stealing, so we like changed who was doing the first dispel to like get it to spawn or whatever, and like yeah, nothing would work. So Sun King didn't work, which was weird. And then on council, we spent probably most of those wipes waiting for the after images to show up, and we never got them. So
Really?
we were killing what Freya? Freya? No, who's the
Frida.
first one?
Frida.
Frida. We never got after images for Frida the entire night of pulls.
I mean, I hope we have that bug. That sounds great.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know if that's an overall thing or like not, but then yeah, but then we'd wipe randomly to like people not kicking the thing because we had all of our kicks on Frida and like less kicks on the
Yeah.
affix thing. And so we switched that late. And I mean we finally got it down, but it's just weird stuff like that, not 100% working. And just some of the affixes just being like awful in terms of like um when they spawn and how to do it. Like the Zymox one is like really annoying
Yeah.
to get like the most out of that because that's the multiple that adds at spawn. You have to kill as many as you can.
Yeah.
Um, and there was another bad one early on
Minerva.
that like
Dark Vein.
is that's the dispel
That's the
and
dispel and
soak, right?
soaks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
so
one.
we actually almost one shot Minerva. We had like a 10% wipe our first pull and then proceeded to wipe to it 5 more times. And then raid was over. Um, but the thing that wiped us the first time was people that hadn't done Castle Nathria just learning the sins mechanic. The like
Yeah,
doing the triangle with 4 points, which like is very understandable to wipe to that the first time. We wiped to that a bunch like when we were initially progging Dark Vein, so doing it with new people, that's to be expected.
yeah.
Um, but I don't know if we just got lucky, but the several pulls after that we wiped to actually the faded affix.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
these things are very punishing to not do, and that actually kind of surprised me. Like they offer a pretty substantial buff,
right.
but the cost of ignoring it is effectively a raid wipe.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to interact with the affix. You can't not do
Um,
it.
and for something like Dark Vein, where you're like constantly doing soaks or sins or ads, there's just always something happening. Pretty much, finding time to do the dispels for the creation spark sucked. Like we were doing double
Yeah,
dispels and trying to do like the fit the double dispels in between like when there was no mechanics happening. So there that we're gonna try doing single dispels tonight and just like there's only 3 or 4 bottles to soak at a time, so you can do single dispels, especially if one of the dispels is in melee. Like one person has to go soak the melee bottle, and the other 3 go soak creation motes or chaos
right.
sparks,
Yeah,
whatever it is. And yeah, just that's I think my one. I will say, I've really liked going back into Castle Nathria. This has been fun.
yeah,
I'm very like this is way better than just re-clearing Sepulcher. Way better than
yeah,
um I think the affixes are too punishing. Like uh
yeah.
I did some heroic pugs and the kick one just like wiped the pugs I was in repeatedly because it's like a 5 second cast time that you just have to kick over and over. And with 2 people doing it like me on a ranged character and then a melee DPS is just not enough
Right,
to handle that mechanic adequately. You need like 2 melee DPS that are coordinating their kicks to handle it, or like 3 DPS total handling it. Um, and eventually, it's something that people will learn, but especially on something like um, it is on Council of Blood. Visibility of the mechanic on Council of Blood is really not
oh,
very good.
it's awful. Yeah, it's awful.
Or the one that spawns, there's one that spawns during the first blood price on Denathrius. So you do the kick on that, and then you immediately get another frontal. So you've got a million ads up,
Have to
and
kick again.
also you have to do this kick. So it's like the visibility on it is just awful. And the fact that it does 50k, like on heroic, it does 50k to the whole raid if you miss a kick.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not literally a one shot, but when there's other damage going out, we had one go off, and like people were fine, and we lived through it because somebody hit revival.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then we had one go off, and it literally killed like 90% of the raid because people were low from the ads. It's very punishing.
Yeah. I mean, we even wiped on one of our Zymox wipes was to the fact that somebody was running seeds. It was during seeds. I think it was during seeds or maybe running during the ghost phase. Any event, they were away from the group, dropping a portal or something was happening.
Yeah.
And the little orb spawned over them by them, and no one really
Oh
noticed it.
no.
So like and like I rate like I think at the time we hadn't nobody was really like emphasizing because Bigwigs added a timer for when the
Yeah.
abilities spawn, which is really nice, but we weren't really watching it. And like, yeah, we're like, there should be an orb here. And like we're looking around, like someone's like, oh, it's back by the portal. And like as we say that, like the whole raid explodes. We're like,
Yeah. I think
God
the
damn.
easiest one to deal with is definitely the chaotic modes one, because what you can do
Yeah.
is you can just have literally anybody right click it and then you just ignore it. Like,
Yeah,
so
you can do it,
if you
yeah.
just want to not deal with the faded affix, that one is super easy because you just right click it and then don't worry about it. Nothing bad happens as long as somebody clicks on it. It's got like a 30-second cast.
Yeah.
If you don't click on it in that 30 seconds, the raid dies.
Yeah.
But if you click on it, nothing bad happens. So it's really very minimal. In contrast to something like the creation spark, where you have to like do the dispels, and then each one
Catch.
that you don't catch applies a pretty significant raid dot.
Yeah.
It's not like going to insta wipe your raid if you fail to catch one, but it makes things a lot harder.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, the chaotic motes one, you can move it, which is nice with life grip. So if it spawns in a bad spot, you can actually life grip it like under the boss, and like you don't have to move the boss in and
Right.
out, which is something we did on Zymox. Although that backfired when our priest would life grip the person running out with portals as he's trying to life grip the orb in, which was always
Yes.
a fun little like, oh my gosh, what are you doing thing.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think in general I agree. Like I think they are too punishing when you don't interact with them. And like on certain fights, they're just yeah, like, they're just tough to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait till, like, we're on, like I'm thinking of, like, Painsmith, right? And, like, what is gonna be the Painsmith affix? Because if all of them sound awful to do with Painsmith.
Yeah. Imagine having to do the soaks on Paintsmith, right?
I was gonna yeah, particularly during the intermission, like,
Yeah.
fuck no.
The
It's
intermission
gonna
is
be
longer than
terrible.
30 seconds. If you get one of the affixes during the intermission, like, you can't do
You
it.
yeah, you have to interact with it, yeah, which is just yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what they do on those fights, but I'd say, like, the other thing too that I don't know if you noticed too, but some of the abilities were bugged in terms of like not doing like boss abilities were bugged in terms of not doing full damage.
Yes,
So on
Hungry Destroyer, we actually had that with the damage from soaking miasmas.
yeah,
We had people going to like 20 stacks because we had our old weak orders where we just like had people soak it, and I was out on that boss, so I was spectating somebody else and like watching them as like a mage go to 20 stacks and not really be in any danger whatsoever. Whereas like on farm in Castle Nathria, I would as a tank go to like 20 to 30 stacks and be in very spicy territory.
yeah. No, yeah, that was bugged. The line like so on a Nerva actually the line damage, so getting hit by the line that goes through the players, that dot was reduced.
Okay.
I'm trying to think
Fun
what other
fact: the
damage.
spinny dot on the spinny orb dot on Minerva not reduced.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
reduced.
On council, the dots early on from I think it's Frida are not reduced either. They chunk people.
Yeah.
Very scary. Um, but no, yeah, I mean, like I think in general the raid was, barring the bugs, it was nice to go back. I just, yeah, some of the affixes are just weird.
Yeah. And I mean, so one of the things is the affixes aren't going to like the downside of the affixes is not going to scale up. It's going to
Right.
stay fixed. So when we are at eye level like 300 as opposed to 288, 285, whatever we're at now,
Hmm.
the downside is going to be way easier, but the upside is going to scale with our level because it's all like multipliers on our damage and
It's all
healing.
percentage, yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's all going to scale with us, but the downsides are not going to. So like in the next time we're on Enerva, if for some whatever reason it's creation spark again, missing dispels is not going to be a big deal because we're just going to be so much higher eye level that the downside's not a problem. Um, some of them, like the kick one, honestly, especially on heroic, they probably just need to cut the penalty for missing a kick in half. Like there's, especially on a
Yeah.
fight like Denathrius, like what kept happening is we would get like a spawn of the thing right before we went through a portal onto Nathria.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awful.
And then like had to like send people back through. So this was in a pug, right? So I was doing this in a pug. So we had to send people back
Mhm.
through to like uh kick the thing, kill the thing, and sometimes we missed or only like two people went through, and so we just had the explosion go off and like kill two healers, and then your raid wipes. Like it's really that I think in particular feels like the outlier. Like the protoform barrier does not feel very hard to deal with. The
Yeah.
creation sparks, at least on heroic, felt pretty straightforward. Like the damage from them was not too high. Especially because it's like all the DPS want to soak it because they get a huge damage buff, right? So it's actually not that bad on hero. And then the chaotic motes one is just so easy to trivialize. You can it doesn't matter if on heroic if you get the big damage buff, as long as you
Right,
just
right.
have literally anybody right click the thing, you're gonna live.
Yeah, exactly.
So the kick
Yeah,
one definitely feels like an outlier for punishment on heroic for pugging.
yeah. I can see that. Yeah. But I mean, well, I guess we'll see how Sanctum goes next. There. I guess the other thing too is with all these hot fixes, Blizzard actually fixed the scaling, the health scaling. Sorry, which was like an interesting tweet because or like blue post because like they're just like we fixed health scaling. Everybody's like, no, you just made everything 15% because they added 15% health to almost to most bosses. And what was found because I think WoW had did a pretty good little deep dive on this was that players were actually doing 15% less damage in general in Nathria, like regardless of all abilities not working, they were just doing each of like abilities that were working were just hitting
Yeah,
for less. So it seemed to be a very weird like scaling tech issue with how Blizzard implemented it.
yeah,
And like I'll be completely honest with you, like I'm probably gonna tell my like I'm gonna try and convince my raid, like let's just not raid next Tuesday. Next time they ever do a season like this, not raid Tuesday.
yeah,
If they're not gonna like they do like the amount of testing they did for season 4, like just wait
yeah,
till
yeah.
Wednesday. 'Cause, yeah. It's almost like they were the old test and production mentality for the season, which is pretty funny.
It's so the other thing that happened is that in trying to fix the scaling tech, they actually briefly turned it off, and effectively you were having people go in
Oh
get
yeah.
faded loot from bosses that were scaled for 9.0,
Yeah.
and so you had like 45-second mythic kills.
I saw a couple of those logs posted, which is like, yeah, just hilarious.
Which because of all the scaling shenanigans, it is actually super hard for us to put together like a code change to detect those. Like heroic is already difficult because of the scaling health with your group size, but it's doable normally because it's usually like within we can set an upper and lower bound, right? But with
Yeah.
all the scaling shenanigans, where like you said, the actual health number went up by 15%. You know,
Right.
uh, we basically resorted at Warcraft logs to like manually blacklisting ones that people report to us, and going through and like removing ones from the rankings that are obviously too fast. Like if it's a 45-second mythic kill, we know it's one of the bugged ones, right? Because
Right. Yeah.
nobody is killing, mythic Enerva Dark Vein in 45 seconds, right? It's just
Yeah.
not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is just yeah, the amount of bugs just is crazy, right? Like it's just like because like the other thing too that they did is they put out through all this is like they had like multiple hotfixes every day this week. Like there's a blue post literally every day, August 1st, August 2nd, August 3rd, August 4th,
Yep.
August 5th, right? This entire week was nothing but at least a handful of hotfixes going in, along with some other like, stuff that was like probably undocumented, but fixes they put in for things, which is just, yeah, just absolutely crazy. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
lots of bugs. I mean, I actually spent a ton of time on the raid. I don't, do you have anything raid wise? I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about Mythic
So I
Plus.
actually wanted to mention. So I am playing Mage this season. I am not tanking this season. We have somebody else in the raid tanking. So I'm playing
Oh,
DPS for this season. The last time I tried to do this was in Nyalotha, and I played my hunter for a couple months, and then went back to tanking because we were trialing it. It's a long story, but
yeah.
so I am like actually a mage main this season, and it's very interesting to finally get to do something that isn't tanking, but also very different. Like I'm gonna be doing seeds on Zymox as a mage, which is like very like mages are very good for that. But I've literally never carried a seed on Mythic Zymox. Never. Not once. So like I have to learn that mechanic, in raid tonight when we get to Zymox. I'm gonna have to learn that mechanic. And uh it's
Nice.
it's different. Like I was in on our Huntsman mythic kill, and I got in secret during combustion twice, which is kind of rough. But it's the kind of thing where like because I am so new to this, it's like if I were more comfortable playing Fire Mage or any mage, then
Right.
I would be able to do a lot more while also doing the Sin Seeker. But because I'm not used to it, I was like just like, okay, I got Sin Seeker, I'm gonna book it and get to the right spot so I don't wipe the raid. And then like fingers crossed next time we do Mythic Huntsman, I'll just be better and like be able to continue doing my combustion thing during the Sin Seeker.
That's so funny. Yeah, I forgot you had mentioned that. So I don't know if I'd want to play a different role. Maybe a different class, but like I don't know. It's too much work to like learn another role. Also, I hate tanking. I did that in whatchamacallit in Nyalotha, and I realized why I quit tanking because it's like like to me it's not
Nyalotha
only
was an exceptionally boring raid to tank. Like
yeah,
super boring.
even if it wasn't boring, because like there's still like to me like I think any role in a raid can get boring if it's like the same thing over and over again, right? Like even like you four heal the same boss for the 12th time. Like this is
Right.
like I know when the damage is coming. I know when to use my cooldowns. It's like whatever. But to me, like tanking is that just a role that like I get so frustrated in the way that like the game doesn't react the way I want it to,
Mm-hmm.
and like and the
Yeah.
fact that like
And doing
my reaction
movement.
affects like the rest of the raid too. So it's like when I screw up, it's not like
Yeah.
as a healer, if I screw up something, I can sort of like make up for it, or like I'll hide like, oh, I used a cooldown when I shouldn't have. We'll figure it out later, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's very visible.
Yeah.
And so like that's the annoying part to me with
Yeah.
tanking. But maybe I should have done that. Maybe I should have gone DPS.
So
We were left with like 2 main spec healers. So
yeah. We were in a situation where
rough.
we actually have 6 main spec healers. So healing was
Oh,
not an
nice.
option. But we had one of the other officers actually was interested in tanking. And
Oh, cool.
I had been wanting to like spend some time playing DPS, but I never want to do it with the start of a new raid tier
Hmm.
because for a real progression tier, like I would just much rather go with like 2 tanks that we know and trust
Right.
than going in with like a new raid comp or new tank comp and also me playing a completely unproven DPS spec, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so season 4 is actually really nice for that because the stakes are fairly low. Like
Right. Yeah.
realistically, the worst that happens is I end up playing tank anyway. The second worst thing that happens is that I just get benched because I'm not keeping up with the rest of the DPS, which is entirely reasonable. Like those are both
Yeah.
acceptable outcomes.
Yeah. Exactly. Plus, I mean, like the idea is like you mythic raid, so like the only real requirement, at least in week 1 and week 2, right, for these older raids, is like kill 10 bosses on some difficulty.
Right.
Which is like you're gonna do it. Like even if it's 10 heroic bosses like we did, you're gonna get your 10 boss kills in. You're gonna get to progress the quest, right? Which is like the only, I think, like hold up. So yeah, no, I mean that's yeah, maybe we should have done like to be fair, I think we only had like we in our raid, we only had I don't think we had anybody swap. We're sort of really consistent in like what we do. We do
Yeah.
have a lot of like just one trick players that are generally only gonna
Yeah.
ever tell like our tanks are only ever gonna tank, like our healers are generally only ever gonna heal, right? We don't have a lot of swing players in that regard, but yeah, that's cool though. It's cool you get to experience the range GPS life, which is like zero mechanics, just kind of hang out and do nothing. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's been fun and interesting learning how to do movement as a caster as an experience. So like the last
oh,
time
I
I
could
played ranged
awesome.
DPS, I was
Yeah,
playing BM Hunter, right? So you can just like move while
France.
you're doing your regular rotation and not change a thing. Not being able to like having a mechanic hit you while you're halfway through a hard cast pyroblast and your blink is like the wrong distance to take you to the place that you need, like you overshoot or you undershoot it, is
Yeah.
like okay, what do you do here? And for me the answer right now is like I'm canceling the pyroblast and I'm going to the position for the mechanic, which sometimes it's your damage. But
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah.
forgot about.
That's actually one final thing before we move on to Mythic Plus. The
Mhm.
overall tuning for Mythic is actually fairly low. And I say that
I would
basically
agree.
to
Yeah.
say, like, looking at our Dark Vein, our expected Dark Vein kill time. Like, if we had killed it that first pull when we were at like 10 or 11%, we would have had a kill that was about as fast as our kills at the end of Castle Nathria farm. But we're just beginning gearing for season 4. Like, we're still expecting to gain,
Yeah.
another 15 raid eye levels. So we're gonna actually be destroying that boss at the second rotation of Faded. Um,
Oh yeah.
so I'm a little bit. I think the one thing I am concerned about is the tuning of the end bosses. Because if you look at the end mythic bosses right now, there's less than
Mhm.
10 kills of Sire Denathrius that they've been publicly logged, and it's not a lot.
No. And I wonder too if like that's a function of just like guilds like mine having to go back and do heroic,
Yeah,
right? And like figure out what the actual mechanics are because it's been like a year plus since we've done them.
yeah,
Right. I wonder if that number changes as you get into like if you get into Sanctum next week and you have a lot, you're
that's
much more
true.
familiar
That's
with
true.
like the mechanics and like I mean I think next week we'll probably start in Mythic just to like
Yeah.
move forward, right?
The
Um
the other thing is Castle Nathria, or at least Sire Denathrius, Phase 3 is incredibly intense as far as planning and prep. Like, the
yeah.
dance is very precise, and if one person does it wrong, you basically have a raid wipe. So that kind of thing is very difficult to come back and do like a year and a half later, right? But
Right. Yeah.
Sylvanas Phase 3, like, there's a little bit of danciness to it, but a lot of it is on the people that are assigned to do the soaks and the people that, well, the tank that is doing the platform soaks, like picking up all the
Right.
puddles. Um, so that's going to be a lot easier. And a lot of the challenge of Sylvanas gets removed as you get more damage. So, like, being able to just breeze through killing the arrows in phase 1 or in the intermission, being able to meet all the damage checks for killing the ads in phase 2, being able to meet the damage check in phase 3, having just a ton more health, like stronger tanks, making it safer to just hold the stacks instead of dropping them on the platform in phase 3 is going to also dramatically make it like easier mechanically. So there's a
Mhm.
lot
Yep.
of, like, I think Sylvanas is actually going to be one of the easier end bosses in Faded.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. And that I mean, and to be fair, that just leaves Painsmith, right, as the only potential wall. Like I think Kel'Thuzad will be like a timing thing, just depending on what
Yeah,
affix is there. But I don't think Kel'Thuzad will throw up as much of a probably a little bit more of an issue than Sylvanas if you had cleared it previously,
yeah.
right? Um, but yeah,
Which
I mean, it'll be interesting to see what next raid brings.
they did confirm that, like, skips work. So
Right.
if it ends up being that, like, Sylvanas is actually pretty easy to clear, we have a skip for Sanctum. We can just do Ergu, Kel'Thuzad, Sylvanas, and then go back through and clear the other bosses. And we can actually clear anything we want. And if, like, Painsmith is, like, impossible because of faded affixes during the intermission or something, we can just not do it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I guess that does. Yeah, opens it up a little bit more. So, and we'll see what happens next week in raid. I actually don't know what my raid team's planning to do, but we might do another like heroic into mythic type thing if we're only doing faded stuff next week. So,
Yeah. The only reason I think we would end up doing Heroic and Main Raid again next week is for the Dinar quest. I think that's the big, like,
yeah.
compelling reason to do it by the time we raid next week, because it is on Friday. I don't think we're going to be getting a whole lot of gear upgrades from Heroic.
Hmm.
Just like we have so many people, we're going to have like a couple people that could still use it that just haven't gotten to spend as much time in keys. Um, but between like a Heroic clear this week, the vault next week, more keys next week, the fact that Valor and key item level is uncapped.
Oh,
Uh
yeah.
like, we're not going to get a ton of gear from Heroic, but what it is going to do is give you another 10 boss kills for your Dinar quest.
Exactly. Yeah. Which will be nice. And more of the items to do the upgrades, right? So that
Yeah,
you might not be able to take every item right to all your dinar items right to mythic, but you'll be able to get more at least heroic item level, which
right.
is still nice.
Yeah.
Um, well, cool. Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe that's a good segue into Mythic Plus and how. I mean, it sounds like have you been doing a bunch? It sounds like your guild has generally been doing a bunch of keys, but have you
Yeah.
been doing a bunch of keys?
I've done a fair amount. I think I'm at 15, which is like a pretty good amount
That's actually a really good amount. Yeah,
for week
I'm
1.
actually at 12 or 13 actually too. So it's the most
Wow.
keys I've done
Wow,
in
look at you.
months or years. Yeah, yeah. I actually had my 8 dungeons done by Wednesday night for
Nice.
like the quest. So
Nice.
it's actually, I mean, personally for me, it's been a ton of fun. Like I am a huge fan of like the new dungeons, like Mechagon, probably one of my favorite.
Yeah.
I actually did Junkyard more than I did Workshop, which is weird because I think Workshop's generally easier and like a little bit more straightforward. But
Yeah.
um Junkyard's fun with the bots again. It's hilarious seeing how many people don't know about them, like in just the pug groups that I've been doing.
Yeah.
Um, but that's been a blast. Did all both Karas, they are absolutely terrible. I think they're probably like of all the new dungeons, those are the two absolute worst ones to do.
Yeah.
Um, Extremely difficult. And then
Upper's
like going back
hard.
to the
Like
magic damage in upper is absolutely ridiculous. Like
the
I think they
so
made some hot fixes right to it, but I haven't done the hot fixes, but
so the thing with upper is just that all of the bosses wipe you for not knowing how to handle it correctly.
yeah.
And they're hard enough that like in a guild group we can't just like brute force it with gear and like 3 of the people knowing what they're doing and the other 2 like not having played Legion or not having done it that much.
Mhm.
But like curator, you have to be really on top of killing the ads or they will overwhelm you and wipe your group. Medivh, you
Right,
have to be really on top of kicks. You need somebody calling the kicks, or you need 3 melee DPS, or like a prot paladin, or a resto
right.
shaman. Like it's not the end of the world if you don't have any of those things, but if you don't have any of those things, you need somebody calling kicks, or you're gonna have like 3 people overlap their kick on the same like frostbite, and then you're gonna
You're
have
screwed.
like your healer and 2 DPS get frozen and just die.
Yeah, yeah.
The mana worm, they fixed the thing. There was a thing where you could just let him eat the orbs, and he just wouldn't cast the like raid wipe mechanic.
Mhm.
They fixed that. You have to eat the orbs now. You have to drop them off in the puddles.
Yeah,
It's pretty hard. I mean, it's not that hard. It's just like um, you have to be on again. You have to be on top of it. The damage is fairly real. It's constantly happening, which I actually found like I'm playing mage. Found that actually reasonably difficult to do because we had like me, a warlock, and a hunter as our DPS. So like
mhm.
I'm trying to cast, but I have to go and do orbs. Same thing with the warlock. So the hunter's over there like, well, I can do some, but I'm a hunter. I'm going to die to this dot if I try and do too many more.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was interesting. And then Vizdoom. Vizdoom was a pug killer in Legion,
Oh, yeah.
and it's still a rough boss now. Although we are at the gear level that like we skip all the mechanics in phase 2 by lusting there, which highly recommended if you're doing Vizdoom. You do not lust phase 1. You just do phase 1 normally. It's the easiest phase. You go to phase
Right.
2, you press bloodlust,
Try and get out of there
and
as quickly as
and you
possible.
just get out of there before you get any of the mechanics. And then you go to phase 3 and you don't kick him, and you just kill him. Like you hit him as hard as you can for the 30 seconds that he spends there casting that stupid spell. You kick it at 1 second left, and he's at like sub 10%, and you just kill him again before any of the real mechanics happen. And
Yeah.
that is the way that you do that boss. You just try and do enough damage to ignore all of the mechanics because the mechanics actually kind of are ass.
Yeah, and that's actually a big thing even in lower Kara. I don't know, I don't remember too much of this in upper, a little bit, but a lot of the doodads, we'll say, cover up mechanics in lower. So, like, a lot of, like, the rugs that are everywhere will cover up the sleepy zones from, like,
Yeah, I
the
ran
mini
into
boss
that.
cast. And, like, yeah, like, the little infiltrators will cast and things like that, and, like, other things get covered up by that, and yeah, it's, I mean, Kara's a ton like, in terms of dungeons, that's I mean, that's probably my favorite set of dungeons, from all the stuff that we went that is sort of live this season, but it just sucks that they're like, I don't know if it's overtuned is like the right word. They're very difficult to
Yeah.
like do without a coordinated group,
They
I'd say.
they nerfed Maiden's Shield. So Maiden is one that was really causing problems. They
Yeah.
nerfed Maiden's Shield by like 30%.
Yeah.
So those that don't remember that mechanic, She puts a incapacitation on everybody. You have to go and stand in one of the puddles to get a dot to break the
Hmm.
incapacitation. Shadow Priest in PvP style with Shadow Word Death. Um, and then she has a shield that you have to break in order to kick a cast, and if you don't kick it, you die. They nerfed that shield by 30%.
Yeah. Which
What
is, I don't know if I don't know if I got I think I cleared her a couple times before it, and it was always tight, but
yeah, it was not that tight when I did it after the hotfix. Like it was,
okay.
we were crushing that. The one that actually did wipe us was Morose. We actually made it through every boss in lower without wiping, except for Morose and uh, Attunement. What's his name? Huntsman,
The
Attunement.
Huntsman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Huntsman.
Attunement, the Huntsman, yeah.
Yeah, and Morose was just like the ad that does the frontal immediately cast it when we broke the CC and just like killed people.
Oh, the big, like the super wide, like
Yeah,
cosmic.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and it
yeah.
just
That visual
immediately.
is so hard to see too.
Yeah. Oh,
Like the
that's
windup's actually a fairly long time, but
okay.
the actual visual is difficult.
I think that is my biggest gripe from these dungeons is visual clarity. Like the
Yeah.
Borks in Junkyard. Junkyard, there's no excuse for them to have bad visuals in, but the Bork from the dogs in Junkyard, like it doesn't kill you if you get hit, but taking like a 50% haste debuff or whatever it is feels awful. And the fact that you
Yeah.
really like, I can't see the effect for it. I don't know if it's just me. I just
No,
can't see the effect for it.
it's really hard. Yeah. I've started now. The way that I do this now is I lower my camera, so I'm
Okay.
almost looking like straight across, and that way I can see, because seeing it across, you'll be able to see the blue. It's much more difficult to judge if you're in it or not, because you lose
Okay.
sort of the vertical positioning, but at least you can
Right.
tell if it's coming near you and move.
Yeah.
Similar with the morose thing.
Yeah.
Although my camera gets stuck on like plates and like the
Yeah.
doodads for the tables around it, but that's
The
the one thing I found that helps a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah, and then
agreed.
the new affix ads, the Carrion Swarm frontal, is like needlessly difficult to see.
Yeah,
Like just needlessly difficult. That should just be so much clearer. Because it's
yeah,
not like the frontals on Lords of Dread. It's okay that they're not like super clear where they're going to hit because the tanks control the facing of them. So you can
right.
just mark your tanks and you know not to, like if you go near the tank and there's frontal cast happening, you're gonna die.
Yeah, you're in trouble. Yeah.
But the Carrion Swarm one is just like these thin purple green lines that like it's really
Little
difficult to
wavy.
tell. The worst is when you have a pack of mobs, right? And you have the um Nathrazim dude on the opposite side of the pack from you, and he turns and does his Carrion Swarm at you, but like most of the visual is hidden inside the other mobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like the way that you deal with this as a range player is actually that you just stand out of range. So it doesn't matter
Yeah.
if it faces you or not, you're just out of range of it. You stand at max range and you're fine. Um, but that's not always possible in places like Upper and in Grimrail Depot. But
Yeah.
that really grinds my gears. Like dying to stuff you
That's
can't
hilarious.
see feels awful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, I mean, that, yeah, that's been, yeah, that the visual side of it has been, yeah, really rough just in terms of, yeah, noticing where things is. And then to be fair, like remembering what I can and can't get hit by is also like interesting to remember. Like the mobs between the first and second boss in workshop, or sorry, yeah, workshop, like the circles around them,
Yeah,
like trying to like remember if I can sit in those or not, like
yeah,
has been interesting. Um yeah, but it's been fun to go back. I will say that like I don't remember how awful the uh the one boss in Grimrail Depot was, the one where you have to like jump in the cannons and shoot him with things, or
yeah.
shoot the
I
guy with
had
things.
no idea what was going on in that. I did so I was very casual in WoD, so
Oh,
I did like the heroic once, right?
gotcha.
And I had no idea what the fuck was going on in that fight.
Yeah, I forgot. I mean, I forgot about like I forgot about you had to like pick up the things, jump in the cannons, shoot them at the boss. I forgot about he threw like fire in certain zones. So you had to like move between these three areas like to stay safe.
Yeah,
Like he would randomly target someone and they'd have to hide.
yeah,
So I mean,
That one is the hardest for
Yeah,
me. I think I've heard that there's a debuff that you get when you're actually hidden from view and won't die to the mechanic.
I
Um,
think there is too. Yeah, yeah,
if there is, I need a weak aura for that because like I was trying to hide and like getting bounced around by the thing when I thought I was behind things, and like eventually found a spot where I didn't get brutally murdered by the cannon fire, and then it stopped, and it was, ugh,
yeah,
not
yeah.
pleasant.
That was it was fun to go back there, and then I did. I don't think I only did docks once,
I have
and
not done docs yet.
it was just docks. Like it was literally like exactly I remember it. Like died to like the whole you have to hide behind boxes to get to the. I think it's like
Yeah,
the second
I
boss.
remember that. I remember doing that on
Died through that
heroic.
part. Our tank had remembered like he seemed like or they seemed like they knew what they were doing because they pulled all the mobs after the first boss to the stars, let the first star kill everything, and then cleared the way with the second and the third star. Um, so like we sort of got got through it that way. But no, I mean it's to be fair, overall Mythic Plus, I mean, other than the fact that I think Kara is like a little bit on the more difficult side, at least right now,
Yeah,
I think everything else, to be fair, feels really fun.
yeah.
Like,
I actually, this is another. I think season 4 is going to be remembered as a big win. Like, despite the buggy
yeah,
launch, getting back to go, getting to go back and do the old bosses, getting back to go and do these old dungeons. I think it's just going to be a big win. Like, these are fun. It's fun to have this
yeah,
variety. This is way better than the seasonal affix in terms of like introducing variety in the dungeons.
right.
Um, this is, I think, this is going to go down in memory as a very successful season.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I would agree. I think all the pieces are like. I think all the things that are there are good. Like, to your point, like I think they did do a really good job difficulty wise in the raid. Well, we didn't clear it on Mythic this week. I think clearing it on Mythic was a little bit of a pipe dream. Even watching like Liquid go through it on Mythic and
Yeah,
like them like wipe a couple times, not even to like the fact that certain abilities are more just to like mechanics, which I mean, you're watching like one of the best guilds in the world wipe something and take 10 pulls to kill something, you realize your raid's going to be like a 20-30 pull boss to
yeah,
do that.
yeah,
So no, I think it's nice that it's set up this way. And I mean, from my perspective, it would be cool if Blizzard does something similar to this, like at the end of it, expansions moving forward. Like I think
yeah,
this is a cool way to like wrap up. I think we talked about this too, where I was like, a lot of fun sometimes comes in like the pre-patch, right? Like
yeah,
the 2 or 3 weeks before the next expansion launches, and like you're super powerful, everything's super nerfed, and it's not to that level, I'd say, of
yeah.
like
It's
just
definitely not
crushing
there.
everything.
It might. I don't think it's
But I
gonna
think you
get
get there,
there. It might get there when we're all like ultra bisque geared in like 5 6 weeks.
right?
Um, but even the second rotation, I don't think is gonna get there. Maybe the third rotation will be doing silly things like on Stone Legion Generals. I am still okay. Stone Legion Generals. You heard it here first. This is the Galaxy Brain Strat. This all right. This was the Galaxy Brain Strat before they nerfed the mana requirements in the intermission phase. But you don't kill any of the Goliaths in the main phase. Okay, just don't kill them.
Okay.
You just hard burn the boss to 50%. Go into the intermission with 2 Goliaths. The third one spawns because now you're in the intermission. You
Uh
burn
huh.
all of those. That gives you, I don't know what it gives now. Before the nerf to the mechanic, it gave you 90% of his mana. And then you got the
Okay.
last 10% from killing a single commando. So all you did is like you hard burn the boss, you then hard burn the Goliaths, then you do one commando while you're in position for the knockback, and you're in the next phase. And the idea there is that you get basically no earthquakes because everything goes so fast.
Interesting.
But the
Interesting.
damage requirement to do that is like insane, and it's not a damage requirement so much like single target on the boss. It's about burning the Goliaths.
Right. Yeah. Because that intermission can get really hairy if you're slow,
Yeah.
for sure.
But like the end of farm strat for SLG was already to like carry one Goliath into the intermission. And if we have so much damage that you can like push into the intermission as the second Goliath even lands, just because you do so much damage, I think that could
Yeah.
actually be legitimate. Um, and I think the way it's tuned now is actually the I think the Goliaths now give 40% energy instead of 30%.
Uh huh.
So what might happen is you just kill all 3 Goliaths and you wait to dunk the third one until everybody is in position for the knockback.
Yeah.
But that's still like uh, 6 weeks.
That first
We'll
goal.
know in six
Yeah.
weeks.
That first Goliath will be up for a while. So like you have to make sure you can probably survive at least have like at least one bop, right, for one of the jumps because
Right.
it'll kill someone probably outright.
Yeah.
Um, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, it'll be fun to see what people start to cook up like the second rotation slightly. Definitely by the third in terms of like speed strats because yeah, we did the Nathria speed strat on heroic, which is you drop down and just lust the start of P2
Yeah.
and you just burn the boss. Like you don't kill ads, and then
Yeah.
like you just burn the boss, and then you basically push him into P3 before anything happens, and then
Okay.
you kill the two ads and like clear them up, like clean up the
Yeah.
two ads in P from P2, and then just do P3 normally.
Yeah.
So
We did ye old Lust P3 on Denathrius.
okay,
Just trying to make that fit. Because, like, phase 2 is easy to explain to somebody that hasn't done it before. Like, you can mostly
yeah,
just follow the leader, dodge the swirlies, kill the ads, and move on with your life. Phase 3 is a lot harder to explain to somebody that hasn't done it before.
exactly, yeah, yeah, yeah. We got lucky that yeah we killed him before the first big AOE even, and yeah, just sort of cleaned up the ads. And yeah, I think we two shot him because I think the first time we tried to only stay in the middle,
Yeah.
but what we found was that we didn't have enough damage to kill the ads quickly after that. So like basically we
You
moved the
dragged him to
boss
the ads and you like
to the
cleave
to
the
the
two
melee mass.
down. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it range like would dot up the side ones. And then once we pushed, everybody else would move to the side ones, kill them, and then just focus the boss. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was really quick. But yeah, I mean I don't know. I'm having a ton of fun with it. I think going back to Sanctum will be fun.
Yeah.
Um
I'm looking forward to Paintsmith. Like, I think so. I was talking to people
okay.
in
All
guild,
right.
and they were like, "I really wish that the mythic were tuned even lower than it is." I was like, on the one hand, I understand why you want that because we didn't really want to be going back and wiping in Castle Nathria. We wanted to go
Right.
back and be blasting in Castle Nathria and be like the OP pre-patch kind of shenanigans, like you were talking about.
Right.
But at the same time, one of my least favorite things about Sepulcher was doing Halandris pre-nerf, like didn't kill him, but doing it.
Yeah.
And then just the feeling of disappointment in doing it post-nerf.
Right. Right. So
And
you're basically you want like some sort of like power progression where you can like say, hey, we did this week one, it was tough. Week two got a little easier, and week three, now we're blasting basically.
basically, I just want more like I don't want to get to Denathrius, which is like my favorite boss of the whole expansion. I don't want to get to Denathrius and have it be post-nerf Halandris. I don't want to
Gotcha.
have it be completely trivialized by nerfs, by scaling. Like,
Hmm.
it's okay with me if we get to, like, in the second rotation, we get to Denathrius. My ideal, like, Denathrius is we spend, like, 3 hours relearning Denathrius, relearning the phase 3 dance. And we never
Hmm.
wipe to, like, if we ever wipe to a damage check, I think that's a failure of their tuning,
Right.
because I think that's not really the point. But like getting to do just like the phase 3 stuff again, phase 3 Denathrius is super super fun.
Yeah.
And if it's just a complete joke and you get to ignore all the mechanics because you just like killed the boss, then I think that in my mind would be a disappointment.
Yeah. I get that from like I guess like I get it. I just don't.
That's
I
it.
don't know if I would agree.
I don't
Like
I don't think every boss is in that category. Like I think Denathrius is
yeah,
in that category and like Painsmith is in that category,
yeah.
but like SLG better die in a pool, basically. Fate Scribe
Like
better die in a
selectively,
pool.
you're like. It sounds like I want the greatest hits of like bosses,
Yeah.
and I want those to take me a little bit
Yeah.
of time. I want to be able to like savor those. I want to enjoy
Yeah.
those. But like the shitty hard bosses, I just want them to be easy,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Exactly right. Like, if my ideal raid week in the second rotation of Castle Nathria, okay, is we go
Yeah.
into Castle Nathria, we one shot every boss, up until Denathrius, and then we like spend a couple hours of Denathrius just like having good nostalgia, making jokes
Yeah.
about the time that our shaman like like on our first kill, our shaman, our Necrolord shaman went into the higher mirror like death thing and tanked the boss for 10 seconds while our rogue and him killed it. And like just
Yeah.
all kinds of cool shenanigans like that. Like getting to re-experience that with new people and
Yeah.
like show them the boss and just have fun with that. it's not something where I want it to be like our whole weekend of just working on Denathrius or anything.
Right,
I
right,
want it
right.
to take but I want to, if it's like one or two shot Denathrius the second time around, I am going to be disappointed because I want like I it's like, yeah, okay, being super powerful and killing things is kind of fun, but it gets old. I want to go up to raid, play the raid, right? Like if we just kill the whole raid in one go, that's not
Right.
really like, and then like, if the third time around we just kind of like crush it, I'm more okay with that. But I want
Gotcha.
to have like a week where we like, hey, this is this really cool boss that we spent a ton of time on in season 1, and now we're doing it with new people that have never seen it before, and like going through like learning that, shooting the shit, just having fun with it. Then we kill the boss, we come back in the next rotation, and we just kind of crush the boss. That's my ideal for season 4.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I mean, I can get behind that in terms of like, yeah, for like the bosses I'll say that are like that would be fun to re-progress on. That'd be a cool. That's definitely a cool like thing to aspire to, and I hope, yeah, I hope they hit it for sure. It's just for me, like the flip side of that is like if
The
they
Legion
try and nail
Generals.
that, is like you get a Painsmith progression that's like
Yeah.
20 wipes of like just like real crappiness, just like I hate this, or
Yeah.
even like a Kel'Thuzad, like well, the worst would be like a Kel'Thuzad reprogression where it's just
Yeah.
like the timings are different. Like people do like not enough damage, too much damage,
Yeah.
and yeah,
There's
no,
there's
but
there's boss mechanics that I would like them to just outright remove for season 4. Like I would like them to outright remove the damage amp and the CC immunity on the ads on Kel'Thuzad when you push out of the phase. Like,
okay,
nope,
yeah,
that's not a fun mechanic. Nobody likes that. It doesn't make it harder in a fun and interesting way. It just like kills you if you don't kill things within like 5 seconds of each other. And
right,
just
yeah,
like remove that. Like it's already going to be hard to carry abominations and ghosts into each like Kel'Thuzad phase. So you just like, you already don't want to do it. You don't need to make it like a raid wipe, right?
exactly, yeah,
Like just remove
yeah,
that
that's true.
mechanic. Some other things like on SLG, just like, I don't know, gut SLG, just gut it. Like I don't want to do that boss. I would honestly, my ideal SLG experience in season 4 is walking onto the platform and they both jump off the edge and die, and then we collect our
And
loot.
they just like leave loot in like a box or something.
Yes, yes.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, maybe you'll hit them up tonight on Mythic. We didn't get a chance to do them on Mythic, but
I don't think we're
um
getting to. I don't think we're pulling SLG if we get there, because there's also relatively few SLG kills. We're like sub 100 SLG kills.
yeah.
There's really not very many. Sledgefist is like was sub 100. It might be over 100 now. So like killing Sledgefist would be like about as far as we're gonna go. And then if we kill Sledgefist, unless we like absolutely crush raid tonight and are at
Yeah.
SLG with like 3 hours left, we're not. I don't think we're pulling it. I think we're gonna be like, okay, this is Castle Nathria. This has been Castle Nathria.
Yeah.
Go do keys or something. Have fun.
Yeah, we'll come back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks and do
Yeah,
this again.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice, nice. Yeah, no, it's definitely been a blast this season. So at least so far, at least the first weekend, other than like the fact that
It was completely
half the
broken for
abilities.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, yeah. Other than that, fun because I mean it was even broken into Wednesday, right? Like
Yeah,
EU got to do a little beta testing that
yeah.
NA typically does for us for them. So yeah, yeah. But it's a cool concept for a season, and so far I'm having fun. It's fun to go back. I mean, I think maybe we revisit this in like 4 or 5 weeks, and like, am I still doing 12 or 13 keys a week?
No, no. I can
Probably
tell you right now,
probably not.
I'm not going to be doing 12 or 13 keys a week in a month.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
right now, every key I do has a chance to drop an upgrade.
yeah.
In
It's
in
true.
4 weeks, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, I basically have what is the max? Like 298 is the
Yeah,
max you can upgrade Valor to.
yeah,
I basically have a full set of tier gear that I just need to now upgrade slowly to
yeah.
298, which
Um,
is nice. So
so one of the issues I've actually run into with running keys is that everybody wants to run Junkyard and Workshop. Nobody wants to run any of the others. So I've had a hard
yeah.
time actually getting to my score to the point that I can upgrade things.
Oh, you shouldn't. There's no score requirement, is there?
There is score requirement to upgrade things. 1400 to
Oh,
upgrade to one time, 1700 to upgrade two times. Talking gear from a 15, but like,
oh, okay,
and
yeah,
then 2K to upgrade to max.
Gotcha.
2K is not
Very
really
nice.
reasonable this week. Like you can get it, but it requires doing like 22s on everything or something.
Yeah.
Um, but even getting to 1700 when nobody wants to run Grimrail or Iron Docks or Karazhan, and they all just want to run, Mechagon for the rings,
Yeah.
is a little rough.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, I think I've gotten, like I said, I've done every dungeon, but to be fair, I think it's those two and Lower Kara that I've only done more than once. I'll say
Yeah.
everything else has been like a one and done type deal.
Speaking of, uh, our raid lead actually got both Mechagon rings, like the BIS Mechagon ring set up the first day of the patch.
So jealous.
Actually crazy.
I'm so jealous.
He,
Yeah. I'm sorry.
he and one of our tanks, when we pulled Shriekwing Heroic on Friday, were eye level like 289, 290.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
pretty good.
they've been grinding keys. They both spent a lot of time in keys this week, but holy shit. That's
That's crazy.
for reference, I was like 275 because I at that point had done like 8 keys, 9 keys, and had gotten one item.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the other thing too, is like nobody's trading anything because it's all upgrades, right? It's all
Yeah.
potential like catalyst gear or just upgrades in
Yeah.
general. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I mean it'll be a fun rest of the season, fun to grind it out,
Yep.
get those upgrades in, and I think it'll be. I mean, to be fair, I hope Blizzard takes this as sort of a template moving forward, and
Yeah.
like end of expansion seasons, like doing some like crazy stuff for like 2-3 months, like before the next expansion launches.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I know I actually think we've talked about this before, but I would like them for like the 0.5 patches. Like this is how they nerf the raid is they like give us, you
Mm,
know, basically a faded raid, a raid, one of them. And they say,
right.
"Hey, this one is open now. You can go and you can collect loot it's like half a tier higher." And that can help you push across the finish line for your progression.
Yeah, but I wonder then if you get into like exponential scaling, like we used to have, where it's
Yeah,
like you just get like instead of going like 20 eye levels between tiers, it's like 35 or 40 item
yeah,
level between tier because you have that sort of like mid
right.
step. But
Yeah. I don't know, maybe
eh,
not. Like I think that would be a lot of fun to be like, "Hey, 10.0.5 night holds out. Have fun."
yeah, no, it would be very fun to go back and then do that. Yeah, maybe at like one rate at a time. Yeah, that would be actually probably a good time
So,
for sure.
yeah,
Awesome. I guess we'll see.
we will see. Yeah, I think that about sums it up. The only other thing that I wanted to mention, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because the podcast is about to end. Uh, Rimrail Depot is going to be an adventure on Sanguine.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
I'm so glad I'm not tanking. I'm so glad. Good luck with
Uh,
that. Oh, you're not either. So yeah, good luck with our with
yeah.
your tank friends for dealing with Sanguine in that
Yeah.
place.
I've also decided I'm only playing Frost Mage or Arcane Mage in Grimrail now because I keep putting my flame strikes on the ceiling. Like every there's always a ceiling. There's always a box for you to drop a flame strike on, and it just keeps
So good.
happening.
So
Very
good. I love
annoying.
that dungeon. I'm so
Um,
glad it got voted in.
but Frost Mage doesn't have that issue. Arcane Mage doesn't have that issue. So I'm gonna play one of those for Grimrail.
Nice. Nice. That'll be fun.
But
Yeah, that place is a hellhole. I'm so glad it's in.
we one of the tanks on the other team in my guild is actually like a Grimrail Depot super fan. I don't understand it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and this
What
is
a
a tank too,
weirdo.
right? Like he's a very high end tank. Better like higher keys than me by like a ton. Uh,
Yeah.
he's like super fan, and everybody thinks he's crazy, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I would it's got a screw loose or something up there. That's not right. It's not right at all.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's funny.
But that is going to be it, I think, for our show today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. I hope you enjoyed it. It was actually on time this week.
Yes.
And if you would like to support this show and all the other work that we do over at the Peak of Serenity, you can do that over at our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, come and join the Discord. Patrons get a special role in private channel. Everybody else, there's the lounges, which are a great time. Is there an F1 race today?
There's not summer break.
Summer
It's silly
break.
season.
So
Silly
everybody
season,
is
so
probably in Brew Lounge complaining about Grimrail Depot.
probably, yeah.
Probably. But it's a good time. So come join. But that is going to be it for the show today. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.